Dear Aaron, and you can transmit this to your children whenever you feel necessary. Let me tell you a little bit about our family history, one section of the family. It's the Goldschmidt section. My my parents, which are your grandparents and your great grandparents, uh, Hermann Goldschmidt and Else Rosenfelder Goldschmidt, were married in Frankfurt in 1932. 1932. They were married within the Breuer community of Frankfurt. In 1933, their oldest son was born, Jose Goldschmidt, and 2 years later, Eli, your father and grandfather, was born in Frankfurt in 1935. Now, 1935, already the Nuremberg laws discriminating under Hitler were already applied. So my mother used to tell me that the people in the hospital said, "You're nuts. How come you're going to have a baby at these difficult times?" They had these two children. Now, the situation got worse, and they started looking for places where to go. At one point, my mother wanted to go to Palestine, to Israel. And second, then my father had a boss. He worked for an office which was willing to hire him in Belgium, in Antwerp, I think. And so they discussed it. Palestine was out of the question. I don't know why. But the Belgium option was very, very rational and very, very accessible. But my mother said that she does not want to migrate to a place so close. So if we leave Germany, if we leave Frankfurt, we have to go to a place further away. And my mother had a sister who had left Frankfurt in 1934 because she had been close to the Socialist Party and had visited Russia. And so they were the first ones to have to leave Germany under Hitler in 1934. Then she went to Argentina. So Tia Berthe got the visa for my parents to come to Argentina. So when they decided they're going, my father, Hermann, my mother, Else, Jose and Eli, and they took along my grandmother, my mother's mother, Rosenfelder. They took her along to Buenos Aires. But the mother of my father, the Goldschmidt side, she did not go. She went with her son. Her son Julius was already living in Holland, first in Amsterdam, because he was doing some kind of preparation for Israel, Hachshara. So he left very early to Holland. So the idea was that she would go with her son Julius to Holland. But Rose got a visa, which was the other sister. There were Hermann, Julius, and Rose. Rose got a visa for the United States, and Rose used to say that very heartbreaking situation. She was young when they said goodbye to each other in the train station. And then my grandmother Jetchen stayed in Frankfurt and was about to leave, and she left earlier to New York, for New York. Now, their first part in Holland, they were quite well organized. There was my grandmother Jetchen together with my uncle Julius. They were well organized, and they had, seems to be, one of the interpretations is that Julius was collaborating with the British in some way, we don't know exactly what, but he was working for the British government in Holland against the Nazis. So at one point they moved to Enschede, and also they had quite a good time there until 1942, where they got a note that they have to report themselves to Central Station. They will be deported. But the policeman that delivered the note had told them the night before that they would be called. So therefore he organized, they had an entire organization, they found people where they could be in hiding, Now, that was 1942. I'm going back a little bit. When they had this quiet time in Enschede, there Julius, who was single, got married to Ulla. I think it's 1941, where they were married. And the picture, one of the pictures where we have about 20 people around, there you can see my grandmother sitting next to the Chosen. The Chosen is Julius, and next to Julius is Ulla and her family on that side. So those are the three people that I recognize. And the girl that is sitting in the front on the floor with a white dress. So after they got married, very soon after, Julius got sick. Exactly details we don't know, but seems to be there was an illness related to blood, because he must have been very weak. And so the doctor came to see, and according to Ulla's story, the doctor came to see him, to visit him, and he said that there's nothing to do with him. We have to inject him, and we have to inject him with some kind of a medicine poison because there's no hope for him. He was seems to be a Dutch Nazi. Ulla started fighting with him that he should not be shot, he should not get that shot. So when he was arguing with him, the doctor threw her down the stairs. And with this fight, she lost her baby. She was pregnant, seems to be in very early stages, and she lost her baby. So before he was before he got this injection, my uncle Julius told his wife, that if something happens to him, he should help his mother. So a few weeks afterwards, they went into hiding, and there was a third floor, which we visited, that house, a third floor like in the Anna Frank story, and in hiding there were 7 people. They started being 7, they finished only 6. 7 people, and from the 7 people was my grandma, Jetchen Goldschmidt, Ulla, and one child, the one that with a white dress down on the floor. Now, so all we know is that at one point, my grandmother, Jetchen, became sick, something like a pneumonia. So in order for her to be helped, she was taken to the hospital as a German. They did not say that she was Jewish. Was taken as a German, must have been 1943. And she passed away, and she was buried as a Catholic. She was buried as a Christian. Meanwhile, the 6 people stayed on, and afterwards I found out, but I'll tell you how, that this little girl, who by now was already 7 years old, she has memories of Jetchen, of my grandma, your great-grandmother, your great-grandmother, that her image of Jetchen was davening every morning and every afternoon, davening, when they were in hiding. Now, the hiding was in a room where there was a double wall. So if something happened, if somebody was ringing the bell downstairs, then they knew they had to go into hiding between the fake wall and the real wall. So finally, the war ended, and Ula went to the States after a while, and she got married again, and with a very good marriage with Bertolt. And years passed by, and we used to visit Ula quite often.
Erna is not family?
Who?
Erna.
Erna is a cousin from my father's side too, but Erna left to the States very early. Erna left before the war to New York. And after a few years, I realized that my father, when I was a young child, used to write to this Dutch guy that helped them to hide, Mr. Moos. So every year he used to send a check and used to be very grateful to them. So after, when I was married already, we went to visit Mr. Moos. I visited Mr. Moos twice, and I took Aliza and Azriel with me to visit him, and we kept in contact. But around 10 years ago, that little girl wrote to me, was a lady already, that she was looking for Hermann Goldschmidt. She didn't know that he was looking for Hermann. My father wasn't living anymore. So we realized that she was Esther Posner, who is the girl that was sitting on the floor. And then we got in contact, and we started writing, and I went to visit her, and we kept in contact all the time. She was looking for Hermann Goldschmidt. And it seems to be that there was some problem in relationship between her and Ula in a certain stage, and didn't want to research too much, and I left it there. So that's the story, but I want to explain you the other pictures. One picture is where the wedding. In the wedding you can see Julius, Ula, and Jetche. She's the elderly lady next to Julius, and Esther sitting on the floor. Then there's a picture which I think it's relevant to you. It's my parents with their 3 children, your Eli, and Jose, and myself in Mar del Plata. That's our vacation spot where we used to go every summer. And this was a very, very happy time for my family, for my father. He was business-wise very successful, and he was proud of his children, of Jose, Eli, and myself. So there was a very, very positive time. And then there's a picture of just my parents and myself when I was 4 years old, also in Mar del Plata in a vacation spot. So that's more or less my resume on the story, which I said in Spanish much shorter. Okay, all the best. Any questions, please feel free.